So we have to be cognizant of that and build that up, and that's designed for an environment. So we design our products so we know what's going to happen with them. Or we shift also to service models, right? So that you don't actually own, you don't procure, but you rent or you lease, and then it continually makes its way around. And companies find this quite successful. Xerox, you can't buy a Xerox machine anymore. You can only lease them, right? And that gives them the inspiration, then the initiative to design those products better, because they're responsible for them. And so that's something that we have to do, and that's part of that responsibility. And your question?
You mentioned early on in your presentation about sustainability initiatives dropping the ball sometimes on the education piece. And
Right.
I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little more.
Well, it's great to put up recycling bins, say a company, and then say, okay, here's blue bin, put your paper in there, and that's easy. And not to go back through and check to see if people are doing it, or to give them statistics about what's being achieved, to get teams to move to go, what's next, what can we do, to understand fully what, just because something says you can recycle it, doesn't mean it's recyclable in your system. And education about what else can you do, commuting to work, and then re-emphasizing this and making things available. So in many cases, that educational component has to keep going with it. And then how recycling expands to energy efficiency, to reduction, reuse. So you have to educate people. So going to a paperless society is going to have to be about educating people of how to see things differently. And the technology has to meet you there. Okay. There are people that want to see something on a piece of paper. There are people who want that tactile experience. So how can we deal with that? How do we educate people in a way that, and understand from them what they're missing that we can replace? And so the education system has to keep going through. So you have to keep reinforcing sustainability and building it. That's what I mean by education. And I think companies think if there's something visible in place, it'll work, right? And that's not the case. Again, I have to use the airlines, but working with them. Recycling of aluminum cans doesn't take place in the airlines. It's built into the manual of what to do with those cans. But they've gotten out of the practice of doing it. They just go what's convenient, right? They were recycling all these cans originally on the airlines, and they're not doing it anymore. And it's a massive waste, right? So it has to go into that. Or understanding carpet tiles. Carpet tiles from Interface and also now from Mohawk. They'll recycle them, they'll take them back. But if you don't educate the people which pulling them up that they're not waste, they end up in the dumpsters instead of being on the loading dock waiting for someone to come pick them up. So that education has to filter through. You have to understand all stakeholder groups that are involved in this. So whoever's picking up your recycling has to be educated about what that is and why it's important and part of their job to do that so that it functions. And I think that's what falls down. And it has to be ongoing, continuing, until it becomes a practice. Because for many of us who remember the 70s well, energy efficiency and recycling were key aspects in public advertising and our movement. And we lost that in the 80s and 90s. Yes, sir.
How do you make the distinction between necessary PR and greenwashing? I'm sure you come across this issue in corporations, and universities now are facing the same sort of thing. Everybody wants a green image, but there's so much required to figure out if something's truly sustainable.
Right.
So much knowledge and almost fortune telling required to find out if it's truly sustainable. That at a certain level, it seems legitimate just to say that it's sustainable and green and advertise that. But as we know, from reading the New York Times and seeing major full-page ads for virtually all of them, oil corporations claiming that sustainability is their raison d'etre. Not everything that claims to be sustainable is truly sustainable. So how do you navigate that path?
Well, first of all, you can have a corporate, what would be a corporate social responsibility report. So a transparent document that's available to everyone, that says exactly what you're doing and what you plan to do. And some companies are reticent to do this because they haven't done that much. Right? And also then you have to look at, when you're proclaiming sustainability, is it, or green? Is it the product that's green? Is it the process of producing the product that's green? Or is it the corporation behind it green? Or should it be, or is it all of it? So then we have to pick out what that is. Because Eco-Imagination has been great for GE, but if you went to GE and said, this is a green company, that would be a really hard case to make. They have a very successful part of their company that's green. Right? And you can go to a campus and say, you know, the campus is green, look at the wonderful sustainability projects they're doing, and then you go to their lab and seeing what sort of waste is being created there and what's happening to it. Or how much building's going on and what's that carbon footprint, what's with that demolition going on. So, yeah, it's extremely complicated. There's no doubt about it. Ideally, that's why you have directors of sustainability. You have people who are starting to train in this, and in both the environmental side, the business side, the technical sides, to help us navigate this. So you have to be cautious. You have to, but part of sustainability is being transparent. And once you can acknowledge where your successes and failures are, then you can start addressing those. And I think people will understand that. But it is great. BP looks like it, you know, Beyond Petroleum. They gave $500 million to University of California, Berkeley, and University of Illinois for biofuels. But that's, what, 1% or less of their business? Their business is drilling oil and natural gas and piping it and sending it fossil fuels. Even Exxon now is talking about it, you know, and they were fighting for years. So yeah, it's there. But what it tells you is people recognize this is where things are going. And so those of us who actually, one, embrace it and can verify it, not only will avoid greenwashing, we're also going to be stronger. There's a great business case. There's a great social case. There's a great environmental case for sustainability. So if you really practice it, you're going to come out in the end successful. And you're going to be able to handle that. So it's just, again, moderation of listening and being transparent. Acknowledging that there is only so much you can do at a time with money, but with resources and energy. And again, you don't want to enforce it on people so that it's a backfires. And that's part of sustainability, is that understanding the social aspect of it, understanding the communications aspect of it. And we can't, and the first way is listen. First off, what do people think sustainability is? What do they think green is? And again, to go beyond just greening, that it is about social welfare and social equity, as well as environmental equity and financial security. So it's tough, but one, it's unavoidable. Two, it's also a great challenge. And I think that's something we can manage. And in academia, even better prepared in the sense of we're constantly being checked by our peers and verified, and we know how to verify and justify our findings. So, at least I had to in my dissertation.